Hi there. Full disclosure, I'm really struggling forming a video about what I'm about to talk about. This is maybe like my 10th take, and I've decided it is my last take, and whatever I say is just gonna stay. So I did a tarot reading for myself the other day, and I realized as I looked at the cards that the cards weren't just for me. I think that these are cards that everyone could possibly benefit from. Very briefly, I'll talk about tarot. People tend to be a little afraid of an esoteric practice, but it's a practice of self-reflection. We all have our own experiences that shape the way we see and perceive things. So, for instance, I might look at a card and it might trigger something really deep within my own experience that perhaps you might not have, or vice versa. So take this with a grain of salt, and I will try to explain it in a way that isn't forceful and still leaves some room. So with this reading, it's interesting because traditionally you shuffle the cards, you cut them, and then you pull. But as I was shuffling, 4 cards just jumped out of the deck, and I was like, okay, those are the cards. The first one, Hermit. Now I love this deck. She uses animals instead of humans, and I think the turtle is the perfect animal for such a card. This is in the Major Arcana. This is important to clarify real quick. In tarot, you have the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana. Major being these major life events that we go through, from the Fool all the way to the World. There are like steps, so to speak, of what an enlightenment journey looks like. The Hermit, the 9th card, is when we retract from the outside world, as a turtle does, drawing ourselves inward in our own little shell. And, you know, in a Western society, we might think of hermits as like weird, as, that weird old guy or whatever. But there's great value and reverence that we should have for such a person that can have that strength to step away, to be in their own space. It's not easy sitting with yourself. The Hermit is an opportunity for meditation, for contemplation, for your own journey. Next card, Death. Now this is one of the cards that really freaks people out in the tarot. You know, when something we love comes to an end, there's sadness, there's grief to that. But when something we don't love dies, there's a celebration. So immediately when you see death, you might think like, oh no, death. But, you know, it's more complex than that. Yes, things are coming to an end. Yes, the way that we operated in this world, the way that we functioned, it's not happening like that anymore right now. And that can be very unsettling. But the next card in the Major Arcana after Death is Temperance. Temperance. That is a card that represents balance. So right now, we're in the stages of death, of letting go, of purging. And the next step after that, as it always is, will be balance. So there will be some sort of reckoning with that loss. There is going to be something new taking the place of that life that has left. That's something to think about. The next card, speaking of life, is Ace of Wands. Now this is minor arcana, so we can think of this as more the mundane, as they say. I don't really like that word in terms of talking about it. I think everything in life is major. But wands, right? Okay, so we have 4 suits here. Wands is ruled by the element of fire, so we have lots of red and yellow colors here to signify that fire. And we also have a stick, the wand, and little blossoms coming off of that branch. So we can think of Ace of Wands as being the beginning, number 1 in our fiery desires. So it seems like as a response to being by ourselves, as a response of this death, this loss, we are able to tap into our creative fires, our ambitions, our passions. There's been so many people creating things, music, art. Now, perhaps this is an opportunity for you to create art. I don't know. Again, take whatever you want from this. The last card is the 4 of Pentacles. Pentacles is ruled by the element of earth, so we can think of things that are tangible, physical. And we see here that there's this sense of like these structured lines, this kind of confined space that we have ourselves in. I referenced the 2 other decks I have. As much as I love Wild Unknown, I don't think this image really picks apart the complexity of the 4 of Pentacles. So I brought out my 2 other decks. Now they have 2 very different meanings here. Not necessarily different meanings, I guess, different ways of perceiving the meaning. Let's start with the more traditional Rider-Waite tarot. So these images are probably what you might think of when you think of tarot, this classic style. We can thank Pamela Coleman Smith for her artistry. And we have a dude here hoarding on his possessions, like a foot on each one. He's like clinging to it. This person is approaching the 4 of Pentacles out of fear, out of scarcity, out of just fear that he might lose it all. So there's that structure, that control, that binding of his possessions in that way. I have another deck, Mother Piece, which uses divine feminine archetypes from all different matriarchy societies, which, oh my god, this deck's fucking awesome. I wasn't gonna swear, but then I did. We have a woman here. It's almost kind of hermit energy. She's sealing herself in. So again, that blocking off, that separation, that divide, that control over her physical state. She is in control here. She has her own fire. She has everything that she needs. She is okay. Yeah, so those were the 4 cards that I drew, and I think it does speak to what's going on in the world. I hope that you are all feeling safe in your own little hermit dwelling, that you are processing this death in the ways that are beneficial for you, that you are tapping into your creative energy, whatever that means for you, and that you are finding a sense of balance between the possessions that you have. Okay. Yep, that's it. Bye.